Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Nick, and this is, I guess, the first stream. Hopefully, everything is working well. Did have a little bit of a hiccup before, but yeah, hopefully, this is all going okay now. So, what I am doing now, we're going to be basically creating a game character, and the what I want to do is basically create a character from scratch. So from conceptualizing, so I'm going to work from a concept that I found on ArtStation and go through the whole process, which takes a very long time. And I'm just going to slowly work on it. This today is probably only going to be like 20, 30 minutes. It's more just a test of concept to make sure this whole thing is working. Audio issues is number one. So we'll see how that goes, at least on my end. And yeah, so basically we'll switch over to the Cintiq so we can see what we're going to be working from today. So this is the concept that I have chosen to work on. It's this awesome sort of cyber soldier character by Long Uyang. Don't want to butcher that name, but yep, found it on ArtStation, and it's a super, super dope concept. I just love like the color theory and just like there's a lot going on, and for me personally, like a lot to work on. I spent the last year in school doing character design and everything like that, or at least 3D character creation for games. And my strengths lie in organic sculpting. So creatures, humans, that sort of thing. That's definitely my bread and butter. That's what I feel like I'm good at. This character, however, is definitely a lot of hard surface. So you can see here, there is obviously, around here, there's a lot of different objects. We've got some dynamite, got whatever this is, like a oxygen tank. Obviously, we've got the weapon. Lots of stuff going on, and definitely going to be a fun concept to work off of. So I think without further ado, we're just going to get that sort of started and have a look. So I'm going to move this over and just make this small. Now, the first thing I've technically done is in PureRef here, I've created like just a little reference board, nothing too crazy yet. Usually I build these out as I sort of go along. But the first thing I want to do today, at the least, is sort of start to block out sort of the basis of the clothes. Obviously, there's not too much going on, not too many layers at least, but just sort of get that put in there and start the block out process. Now, with the block out process, I'm going to start from this base mesh here inside a ZBrush, a male base mesh that I purchased, and use this sort of build off of everything. Because it's a human character, I don't feel the need to sort of use anything else other than this base mesh to get started. And it's already relatively muscular, in definitely with the shoulder definition there and everything like that. So I don't feel like I have to do much in terms of anatomy or anything like that. Maybe we'll beef it up a bit later down the road. But yeah, like I said, because this is more just a proof of concept and I've never streamed before, so definitely nerve-wracking for me, I'm going to just sort of jump in and I guess start blocking out the clothing. So we have like this sort of leather vest here underneath, which I'm sort of treating more like a bulletproof vest. So I've gone over here and found something like this, which is sort of like a Kevlar vest. Obviously, it's not perfect representation, but something like this to go underneath. I actually quite like this because clearly it's a bit more of a crop, and based off of the concept here, that is definitely sort of how it looks. Then we have our, I guess, I don't know what you want to call it, our accessory vest. So something like this to do over the top. Now, I couldn't find an exact one-to-one replica online, and definitely like a lot of these have these weird sort of straps on the back. I don't know if no, I didn't get a full back shot, mainly because I just didn't like the way this looked. The vibe I sort of get from the character is that this is going to be a full vest around the back rather than like straps and stuff. So, but something close enough, I think like this will be good. And then obviously we've got leather pants, and I'm thinking probably some underwear to go underneath as well. So yeah, let's get started with that. So we're gonna got this here now. Unfortunately, I got a new keyboard, and my Control and Alt buttons, which are the two of the main hotkeys in ZBrush, are completely backwards, which is very frustrating. But we'll see how we go. So probably what I'm gonna do is divide this guy up a bit so he's got a bit more topology because I'm gonna go through and sort of mask out the clothing. So let's do that. I've also like got halfway through sort of setting up my ZBrush document, which I might figure out to do tonight because usually all this stuff down the bottom I have here on the right hand side, so it's nice and easy to access. And yep, that's going to be fun, and I'll have to play around with that a little bit. But yeah, let's get started. So, I mean, clothing, at least in ZBrush, is super, I find. I mean, the basis is relatively easy. Obviously, we're just going to sort of start sculpting, or at least extracting some geometry out, and like so. Now, looking at the concept, kind of looks like we've got like a bit of a high neck here. I definitely don't see any sort of V-neck, but when I look at the concept, I don't see that sort of high neck. But then I found this, which I think is more like a motorcycle sort of protection. And I thought maybe if we incorporate that into this, even with the zipper, because we can't really see too much in the concept. So I think I am going to make it relatively high necked. So let's do that. So I think if we make it go maybe up there, I think that might work. And then we'll have the helmet come down. And then I think what we'll do is we will cut it off there. Let's have a look. Oh. And we've lost ZBrush. Like I said, the Control and Alt tab are just completely backwards. So if that's the crotch, probably even want to come it up a little bit more than that, I think. And yeah, cool. So I think that looks good. And because this is just, we're just extracting things, we're just doing like the block out. I guess it's not super important in terms of sizing right now because we can just figure that out later. But we're going to extract this out and we'll do 0 thickness for now. And that looks good. So we'll just accept that. And we will Control W that. So polygroup that into 1. And then I'm going to inflate it just a smidge to get it off the base mesh so that we can have some sort of representation, and then just give it ever so slightly, just smooth that out a little bit because that otherwise that would be very tight. Very, very tight. And smooth that out, and probably just a little bit down there as well. Not super important because I am literally about to Z remesh this. However, if we can beef this up a little bit now when we Z remesh it, it'll make probably a little bit more sense. And I feel like it's probably important to note that I am not a professional in the industry yet. I want to be one, and I am doing this to work on my portfolio. So anything I say, take with a grain of salt. I actually really like the trim dynamic tool for building up sort of peaks and valleys. I find it works really well, personally. Now, I think that's probably enough. So let's do some Z remeshing. The hardest thing with ZBrush is like there's just so many different menus, trying to remember where everything is. So let's just do, yeah, we'll do 0.1. This is a pretty simple thing to sort of Z remesh, so I don't expect there to be any crazy problems. But holy moly, that's not what we want. So let's maybe bump that. I mean, we'll just do 1. Where's my 1 key? That is way too low poly. It's a little bit better, but pretty jank around there. Maybe let's turn the adaptive size down. And the adaptive size, my understanding is the higher value, the more it's going to change the size of the polygons. Whoa, we've clearly got something wrong here, so let's go back a bit. And we'll go here. Okay, so let's go 1, and we'll turn adaptive down to 0, and let's do that. Let's see how that turns out. Better. Definitely better. Still some sort of jank stuff here, but what we can do is just sort of move some things around a little bit and sort of, I guess, force it to maybe what we might do is I might get my Z modeler and then just crease the edges and do keep creases. It's better on the back, but not quite. Maybe turn that up just a tiny little bit. The main thing I'm not liking is this ring here, but we could probably, maybe we do half and see what happens there. No, I don't like that either. So let's undo that. Maybe do 0.84. You know, I think for the purposes of what we're doing right now, this is probably fine. Eesh. I am definitely spending probably too much time just to fiddle with this. Feel like, whoa. I feel like I literally just did the same thing. Oh well. That'll do for now. All right, so we've got that there. Let's do the, well, how about we play around with a little bit of dynamic. So we'll go dynamic, put that on. So dynamic basically emulates what it would look like if you were to subdivide this mesh, which allows you to sort of go through and push and pull things that are obviously going to shrink a little bit as you subdivide the mesh. And then what we can do as well is do a tiny little bit of thickness on there. We don't have to do a lot, probably more than that though, to give us an idea. And again, really just blocking out. This is the problem when I create characters. I feel like I just get stuck in the weeds and just basically just get stuck doing things. But that's fine. All right. I'm spending too much time just getting this basic shape in. I can refine it later. Okay, so next what we're going to do with this sort of vest here, obviously we've got this top part here, but what I'll do just for the block out purposes is probably just keep it as all of one shape and most likely detach that later, I think. Yeah, let's see how we go. All right, so I'm probably going to hide this, go back here, and let's clear that and go back to this. So obviously we need a little bit in the middle. And probably going to go down a little bit. So let's do that. And then something like that, I think. Probably fine. I think it's super important with clothing to just, I guess, sort of just get basic shapes in there and then block it out. Now, I know a lot of people really like using software like Marvelous Designer, or I think Clo 3D, I think is the other one. Not my favorite piece of software, probably because it's more it's like CAD software, so it's more physics based, I guess you would say, more accurate, one might say. But as someone who kind of just sort of like sketching things out, I personally, I don't know, my brain can't comprehend it. I would, not my thing. I can use them, not a huge fan of them. And I'm actually working with a industry pro to help create this character, sort of like a mentorship, or it is a mentorship. And he sort of said the same thing. That, well, he does use it, to be fair, but you know, sometimes it works just as good if you use ZBrush. So let's, I think what we need to do is like make that a lot less. And yeah, I think let's go like that. I think that works well. Let's have a look at the actual vests. So yeah, because I'm not going to do this back piece here, we want to kind of... So I actually like this back piece. So, but then because he's got the collar... Hello. Yeah, let's do that. I think that works well for now. And then this one here, I feel like we can probably make really low poly. So let's... Okay. Yeah, okay. So 0. We'll accept. And we'll go here, go back onto that. I always like to refresh my poly groups. And we will... God. Okay. So, before I do a Z remesh, I might just pull this out a little bit. Cool. All right. Also, apologize if I'm a little sniffly. It's been super cold the past couple of weeks, and I am a sniffly guy. Yeah, because what we'll probably do is end up separating that off into its own, but then how would that work? Good question. Okay, well, let's just not worry about that just yet. All right, so that may be a question for... This is kind of why I love creating game characters, because there's so much interpretation, you know? Like, I only have this image to work off of, and, you know, I can't find a real life, well, at least, you know, not that I've looked, army vest that sort of replicates this. So it's like, cool, well, we obviously have, you know, we have a bunch that are similar, and they even have, like, that little strap thing. But then the collar section, so this is the closest we have. But then the collar kind of just is its own weird little thing. So we're kind of doing this and this into this, I think, which let's do that, and then we do that. We want this to kind of come in a bit, I guess, because we're gonna... And luckily, because we're gonna Z remesh it, if as long as like this can just be whatever, because once we lower the topology down, it's gonna work really well. So let's get that more into that kind of a shape. Obviously, we need the collar up here, but this can like really come in a bit. Yeah, and then we can have that as like its own... Yeah, let's do that. So we're going to pull that down a bit and then have it. So kind of like that. Where are we? What are we looking at? Yeah, I think that makes sense. We come in here. So what I'm looking at here is sort of how this sort of flows under the armpit. Oh, and kind of want something like this. So it's going to come in, and then we're going to have our sort of squarish sort of thing here. Or this bit, whatever you want to call it. And I think at this point is probably where we're going to want to Z-remesh it. So maybe let's go adaptive size 0. And let's just go down to, probably get away with this being quite low. Hey, that, apart from this jankiness, didn't turn out too bad. Alright, so... get that going. I think that probably get that going there. Try to get like a right angle almost, sort of. Same up here, so I kind of want that to kind of come like that. And then I do really want clean topology around here because I'm going to extrude that to make this. Or do I maybe even just ignore that? Make that as a separate decisions. Not bad. Oop, doesn't like whatever that was. Nope. No siree. Okay, we don't want right angle there. Let's... And we have my cat coming onto the stream, which you may see in just a second because she doesn't understand personal boundaries. So let's open this up a bit and... yeah, so we kind of come together in the middle quite a fair bit because we're going to have buckles pulling it together. And then again here, because we're going to have more buckles, but then here we can kind of sort of flare it out a bit. And what I probably will do is maybe straighten that down. Yeah, she loves sitting, she's like right here because the Cintiq has a lot of heat exhaust. And I guess so does the laptop that she's sitting on. So I think we have like, maybe we don't do that. And instead we sort of like split that out like so. And we have this bit kind of be where the zipper is. Okay, and then we're going to do same and again. Hey, that's not terrible. Even that, not too bad. Could be worse, could be worse. So let's start. So if we turn that off, just build that out a little bit. And then from the look here, it kind of flares out a bit. So let's get that going. Yeah, and then we can kind of, yeah, let's do that. Cool. All right. Yeah, that color thing is going to be, yep. But also kind of why I love this sort of stuff. You look at it and you're like, man, I didn't think that was going to be a problem. And, well, we'll soon find out. Okay, let's do that. Oh, wait. Okay, so that's already like that. So let's, okay, alrighty. So for now, let's leave that. I'm going to figure out the color later. I may even, oh, perfect. So we want that almost, so that gap here that we have works perfectly with that. And this bit down here works quite well. So we're actually got the proportions pretty good, even just by eyeballing it. And then, ooh, I think I'm just going to give away get that keyboard gone. And I think that probably makes sense as well. Maybe we make that come back a bit under. Always worry that with my cat there, she's going to do something bad. All right, so we got that there. Let's give that a quick dynamic as well. Nope. So we also need to crease this one. So let's just do a crease and then dynamic. That's better. And we'll give it 3. And then let's do a little bit of thickness on that one as well. New. And then here we can like really dial in where that sort of sits. And I'm okay with it sitting off the, just opposite the top here. We want it to sit on. Makes sense. Cool. Alrighty. Pants. And I honestly, like, I think I'll do the pants and the underwear, and then, I mean, that's all I want to do really for today, just because I am just testing the stream out. Pants are going to be really simple. So with this character, technically it goes all the way to the feet, but like I said, I'm doing a mentorship, and I did have a chat to him about it, and creating characters it's a long process. Obviously, we haven't even done, it just takes a long time. And when creating portfolio pieces, it's important to, I think, to create something that stretches your abilities. You're able to showcase the kind of work you want to do. But because we're working on it in our own time, he said that like if there's nothing below the knee, like in this instance, there's nothing below the knees that isn't represented by everything above the knees in terms of modeling and skill set and everything like that. So we can present the character like this and it look like a full character. And so that's the plan basically, is not not show anything below the knees. Feels like cheating, but you'd be surprised how many 3D characters on ArtStation and stuff like aren't fully complete. He showed me a couple of his, maybe I'll show them in another stream, and they look so good, but they're not even full characters. Like the feet are missing basically, and you wouldn't know because you choose what you show, right? So let's, I mean, pants are gonna be super easy. We're just gonna, if I have my right mask. I think that works, and then cool. Okay, let's get that up, and then we're gonna have a tiny little bit of underwear, and then we should be good. All right, so I mean, for this bit, I'm literally just going to now they're leather pants, so they're already pretty tight, but what we will do is bring the crotch down a little bit, just cause that makes sense. And then again, probably just build this area out a little bit because leather pants are pretty tight and it would make no sense for, well, right now is a bit of a Ken doll, so we do want to beef it up a little bit. That's honestly fine. What we don't want to do is this though. They're not those kinds of leather pants. So let's get that like so. Again, not super important because I'm literally about to Z remesh it. But if we had that crease in there and I went Z remesh, it would try to basically Z remesh that crease in. So I'm sort of, again, doing a tiny bit, but not really. I do need to find some proper pants, and then what we'll do, BMV. You know what's funny is I feel like I talk to myself when I sculpt anyway, so it makes sense that I would be on to do this on stream. All right, Shift F. All right, so let's polygroup that in one go and do a quick Z remesh, and we'll just do that Should be fine. Man, I don't like that. Better. Give it a little inflate. Okay, and that's fine. That's fine. And then what we'll do is again, although they're tight, they're not perfectly skin tight. So let's just okay. Oh yeah. Okay, I don't love it, but again, just something. Just something. Okay. Okay, and then we'll chuck one more thing in there. And I guess I don't really need to do full underwear because, you know, you're not going to be showing it, but might as well. I think that's probably enough. Let's solo. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess you don't really need it, but let's just build it out just a tiny little bit, just so. No. Hell no, we don't want Siri. This damn control key, I tell ya. My fault. I was just like, I'm going to get a nice mechanical keyboard. But then control is a very common key in ZBrush. And then so is command. And if I press command, I get control. But if I press control, I get control. But if I press command spacebar, I get that. Control spacebar, I get that. Super annoying. First world problems. All right, extract. And then we'll accept that. And then we really can just Z remesh this right down to the load. So effectively going to be a belt at the end of the day. We'll just go half. And then again. Okay, so we're pretty much at what it considers to be the lowest it can go. So we'll get rid of that. We'll slide that one. Oi. Slide that down. Sure. Give it a bit of an inflate just so it's not fully off this. And we will not Dynamesh, dynamic, and a little bit of thickening. Ah man, my nose, BMV. And we can refine that later. But I think for purposes of this argument, this is gonna work quite nicely. And I think maybe the pants might need to go slightly higher and this might need to go slightly up. But we'll look at that now. So let's just save this. And I think as a test run, not too bad. So mentorship, and we'll just call this, what do we call it? Cyber Soldier. All right. Cool, guys. So I think that's it for this little test. I'm going to probably be doing this every night. I do work full time, so how long the streams go for that, who knows? But yeah, I'm sure they'll just, as I jump in, I'll jump in, and you know, we're going to go from what we have here on the screen. So like, we're going to go from this all the way to this through texturing and everything. So it's going to be a time. So super excited, and yeah, thanks for watching.